Hi everybody, welcome to NewFilmmakers LA Stage 5, created in collaboration with Movie Maker magazine. And we have with us today Gina Leibrecht and Cassandra Jabola. And you are the co-director of Ai Wei Wei, yours truly. Before we start talking about it, it's an incredible film, let's take a peek and see what it's all about.
Ai Wei Wei is an artist, a dissident, a former prisoner, a humanitarian, who is possibly one of the most famous people working in the world today.
I think the act of art is always involved with danger.
What is this film about in a nutshell? Can you give us a summary? Because some of the people who are going to be listening or watching haven't seen it. So if you could give us a quick summary of what it's about first, that'd be great.
It's about an unprecedented art installation on Alcatraz Island that happened in 2014 and 15 by the world-renowned artist, Chinese dissident artist Ai Wei Wei. And it features portraits of prisoners of conscience. And the visitors are allowed to write postcards to the prisoners of conscience. And it follows Ai Wei Wei's story through his background of being a prisoner of conscience himself in China, his father being a prisoner of conscience in China in the 50s and 60s. And then it follows these postcards that were written by the tens of thousands by the visitors to prisoners of conscience around the world.
And so how did this project come to you?
Well, Cheryl Haynes just got my name from somebody and she reached out to me to edit the film.
So you're identified as well as a director of the film, co-director. What was your process? Because, you know, as you mentioned to me earlier, you talked about how you've been given all this footage. It was pretty much handed over to you, is that correct, in terms of the making of it?
Yeah, pretty much. They had filmed quite a bit of footage. I was not there when that happened, and I actually never went to the exhibit myself. They were not intending to make a film. They were documenting just, you know, the process, and then they were going to make a short video for accessibility compliance for nonprofits. And then it was afterwards that Cheryl decided to actually make a documentary film about it and to go into Ai Wei Wei's background. There were large chunks of material missing, and Cheryl really wanted to make a feature film. So I wrote some script and did a lot of archival research and constructed large chunks of the story that were missing from the footage.
Cool. So Cassandra, how did you come on board, and what is your role in the film?
So I'm one of the two producers on the film, and of course our director is also director-producer. So like Gina, I came to this film during post-production. All of the shooting had been completed, and she had a bunch of footage, and she brought Gina on to start to build an assembly, and then she needed a producer, especially because she had never even made a film before, so she was trying to get people who were experienced in documentaries, and I primarily managed post-production and got us into the distribution phase from the assembly phase.
So managing, like, with the sound and the color and coordinating the different elements and that sort of thing?
Yes, all of the different moving parts, you know, helping to build a team along with Gina, managing the post-production schedule, everything from research to scripts to archival material, hiring a composer, PR team. I mean, it's a lot. You think the work is in shooting in the film, and then you don't realize all this stuff happens in post. And then as we're dealing with now for the past 8 months, you think you're done when the film's done, but it's so much more work when you're in the distribution phase. So it's yeah.
Just keeps going.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you decide what the story was? What were the turning points? How would it evolve? You know, how it resolves, and where to put the different aspects of the story, because it has these different elements. It's got Ai Wei Wei's story. It's got the creation of the work story. You know, the collaboration. It's got the story of the postcards, and it's got the story of the people who receive the postcards. And so there's a lot to educate the audience about simultaneously with telling an engaging and entertaining story.
I like to start a film in the present. even if we're going to visit the past, I like to start the film in the present. This is what's happening right now. This is where we're going to go. Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, who is Ai Wei Wei? We can't assume that the audience knows who he is. So we have to give the audience enough information to raise the stakes for what's happening right now today, and to understand who he is as a person, who he is as an artist. And then you just peel the layers. You go deeper and deeper. Oh, by the way, Ai Wei Wei was also in prison. And by the way, his father was exiled because he was a poet and a creative person. So you just kind of go deeper and deeper, and it reveals itself. Then we also had to introduce Alcatraz as a character in the film. And the little scenes that we have of them actually making the art and talking about the art installations. And then, there is a chronology too. So there's the making of, and then Act 2 is the actual setting up of the exhibition. The first visitors arrive, they're responding to the art, they're writing the postcards, and then we go deeper and deeper into what that means. And really that's what it's about. And then Act 3, Cheryl goes out and actually meets some of the people who received the postcards. Ai Wei Wei, in the meantime, has gotten his passport back and left China. So he's now free, he's out in the world. And then we have that scene with him and Chelsea Manning, which is kind of the last
that was incredible. Super
satisfying on an emotional level. At the very end of the sort of introduction, he says, it's possible that your happiness and joy is because someone else sacrificed their own life and spoke out for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the zinger right there. So I kind of shaped the whole story around that, and I really wanted that to sink in.
The other message is the simple act of kindness, that it just takes one person to write a postcard or a letter to some complete stranger that they don't even know, and it impacts both people. It impacts the person writing it just as much as the person receiving it, because it's so isolating to be incarcerated, especially if you're wrongfully incarcerated, which is the case for a lot of these prisoners of conscience. And for the audience, prisoners of conscience, if you don't know, are people who are mostly political prisoners, people who are exercising free speech and trying to speak out against their government and haven't done any violent crimes, and they're being put in jail because of their beliefs. But yeah, that was the other overarching thread of the film, which is
the simple act.
The simple act. The audience should feel empowered, unlike a lot of other films out there that you feel powerless to help in a situation, that the smallest thing makes a difference.
One of the key things that was emphasized in the film was the sense of isolation that people feel.
Yeah.
And Wei Wei talked about it when he was in detainment. He says you just feel cut off, you don't know if anybody knows you're still alive. You don't know anything.
I feel that sometimes when I'm editing.
Yeah. Do I exist?
Does anyone even know I'm alive at this point? I've been under this hole for so long.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to make light of it, but
no, it's true. It's true. And so that is a major thing about the simple act, reaching out to someone who feels totally isolated and alone.
For myself, as I work on a film, each one has its own set of learning experiences, things that you learn, things that you grow out of. So was anything about this film that served you in that way, where you grew as a filmmaker?
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't that aware of prisoners of conscience. I mean, I kind of knew about it. I knew what Amnesty International was. But once I really sunk into the individual stories, I was emotionally just really blown away by it. And the incredible gratitude that I feel for them risking their lives. Like Wei Wei says, my joy, my happiness is because someone else gave something up, and so I learned a lot on that level. And then I learned a lot as a filmmaker too, because I did have to whip up entire sections of a film that didn't exist.
Wow.
And it was an incredibly creative experience for me.
It was a great film, and it's a great contribution to society and to culture, and I really think it's going to speak to a lot of people. It's very empowering, and I just congratulate you both, and I'm so glad you're doing all you can to get it out and to get seen, and You know, it's just a wonderful work. So thank you.
Thank you.
What's next for the two of you? This is something that, you know, this is a lot you've got on your hands right now, but are you thinking forward at all?
We're actually working on the same project, so this is our second project together. We're working on a travel series.
Oh.
And I've also been working on a film about Les Blanc for many years, so I'm diving back into that.
That's great. Well, congratulations. Well, thanks so much for being here, and I want to thank the audience for listening to this conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, we'll see you later. Bye from New Filmmakers LA.